Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host.
Hi everyone and welcome to the show. This is Trevor Stockwell and I have my co-host with me today, Yeukai. Hi Yeukai.
Hi guys, hi Trevor. It's so good to be here, and I'm super pumped to have Tess here. I'm looking forward to our conversation here today, which will be amazing.
Absolutely, yes. So for everybody out there, our guest today, lots of things I could say to introduce her. She's I had trouble with this word. She's an Integrative Nutrition Health Coach, a wellness chef. She's a model and a healthy lifestyle influencer. Welcome, Tess Palma Martinez.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Hopefully I got your name right rather than the description so much. So yeah, apologies for that. It's great to have you on the show though. There's lots of things that you can share with us, I'm sure, that will help us with managing life, managing businesses, growing the business as well. You mentioned the BTG method as one of the things that you focus on. Maybe to start with, just before we get into that, just quick synopsis on who you are, how you've got to where you are.
Yeah, so I am from New York and born and raised, but I also am a Brazilian citizen. My dad is from Sao Paulo, and so that is very much part of who I am as a person, and I love Brazilian food and lots of color, and that primarily that's the biggest part of my food is the color. I try to infuse really clean, healthy food with as much color as possible because the eye looks at it and it's very appetizing. Lots of times healthy food is either just green or even brown sometimes, and it's just not appetizing. So your taste buds are going to react to what the whole presentation looks like. So when it's really colorful and it's every color of the rainbow and it even has some artistic quality to it, it becomes more appetizing.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. So what's BTG then?
Yeah, BTG, Building the Goddess, was a formula that I created during quarantine for myself, and that was identifying 4 main areas in my life that I felt I could elevate. And I made a chart for myself on a calendar, and every day I would tick off each of those marks. Sometimes I wouldn't do all 4 areas, but I would try my best. And I would do something within those areas every day. So for me, that was nutrition. It was my business. It was spirituality and movement. And because of the nature of quarantine, I didn't have any other obligations going on in my life. My work, I didn't have to go to work. I couldn't work from home. So I had full open availability. And so I really just played in this space of what would work. And in nutrition, maybe that day it was drinking as much water as I could just to see how much can I consume and how does my body feel when I have more water. Sometimes it would be trying to eat 9 cups of greens a day. And because I had read that was the ideal amount of greens that you should be consuming. And is that feasible? And how can I sneak in more greens into my diet? If it was for my business, maybe it was as simple as an Instagram post, or maybe I wanted to format my website new. As long as I did one thing that my attention was on that point, I would consider that done. And I would put a check mark. And I found that devoting that time to me and my growth and the growth of my business, by the end of the 3 months of quarantine, I was soaring high. I had never felt so high on life, pretty much. But then the world started to open up again. I had to go back to work. I wasn't able to be as consistent with those things. And I immediately started to notice the decline there. And kind of that like lamenting idea of like wishing I could go back into quarantine. And I know a lot of people felt that. A lot of people also felt the opposite of like, get me out of here. Yeah. So it's taken more consistent effort with being busy and being back in the world, even though it's not fully the way it was, to make sure that I focus on myself, that I make sure that I'm healthy, that my business is growing. So that's the introduction to that method.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's really good.
You have an interesting story, Tessa, if I remember correctly, that you did not come into health and wellness just like that. You had to overcome perhaps some, you were not feeling very well at some point, and you had to go back to school to learn, and now you're helping other people do that. And on top of that, you are helping high-end clients, eat very well and have healthy food. Talk to us a little bit about your background, how you found yourself in this place where you are right now, doing what you love doing, helping other people.
Sure. So I grew up as an overweight child. My mom, I grew up with my single mother. She was a dancer, very toned. We had very different body types. As I mentioned, my dad is from Brazil, and I picked up my physique a lot from Brazil and Italian genes. And there was a lot of struggle there because my mom wanted me to be healthy, but the way she ate and the way she moved in the world was not the way that I best needed that. And food became a really big struggle for me. And I ended up using food in the form of binge eating to soothe myself. And so when I would come home from school, my mom would be at work and I would just immediately go to the kitchen. I was baking, I was cooking, I was doing all of the things that I do now, but I was doing it in a disordered eating way. As I grew up, that struggle continued. When I was in college, I had reached over 200 pounds. I was just very unhappy in myself. I felt like I was grasping at any type of identity that I could just to feel secure in that. But it wasn't until after I graduated college and I went to California, to LA, just for a few months. And I met my first vegan person. And I had never heard of the concept before. This was in 2009. And I was just so taken by that I decided that I wanted to be vegan. And I was vegan for 8 years. I worked in a vegan restaurant in New York City. I worked my way up from, I was a juicer all the way up to a manager. And I really identified with that vegan culture. And I do want to point out, though, that while I was vegan for 8 years, I was not healthy. So vegan, in case anyone doesn't know, is that you don't eat any animal products. So no meat, no eggs, no cheese, no honey. You don't wear leather, those kinds of things. But with modern advances, there are a lot of ways to make vegan alternatives. And so I could still be eating a cinnamon bun that's vegan. And so my diet was still in that disordered way of I was binging, I was not eating greens, I was eating lots of sweets and macaroni and cheese and pizza and vegan burgers and kind of all the stuff that I was eating before, but now just veganized, which also meant that it had more preservatives, more fake artificial ingredients in it. And my body started to really shut down. I was also struggling with menstrual issues at the time and couldn't really figure that out. I had gone to lots of doctors that nothing, they didn't know what was going on. When I was, how old was I? It was in 2018, so 2 years ago, I decided that I was going to stop eating gluten. And at this point, I'm no longer vegan and I'm back onto a full omnivore diet, except for I decided to cut out gluten just to try. I waited 6 months because for women, the women's reproductive system, a mitosis for that is 3 months. So the cells will replenish themselves, rejuvenate every 3 months. So a 1 month cleanse isn't really going to notify my body of anything. It has to be that full 3. After 3 months of not eating gluten, all of my menstrual issues went away. Which is very interesting. I had gone to doctors. I had been tested for gluten. It never showed up as a problem. They dismissed it. But my body told me that that's what it was, because I just had to take the time to listen and give myself 3 months, which looking back, I'm so glad that I did. Because of that, I decided to go to nutrition school. And I went to IIN, which is the Integrative Nutrition Institute for Integrative Nutrition, And through that year of learning about nutrition, I started really realizing how much I love food and how much I love to cook. And it's been a through line for my entire life, but I just had a really bad relationship with it. And I started playing with color. So as I mentioned, I really love color. A lot of that comes from the Brazilian culture. I also was an art student in college, and my eye just goes to that design and looking to a watermelon radish. For those of you who don't know, watermelon radish, it's like lime green on the outside, and you cut into it, and it's just vibrant magenta on the inside. And playing with that and adding it to a salad and seeing how that changed the way that I desired to eat that salad. And I started cooking for other people. I just kind of put it out there in the world that this is what I wanted to do. And everything shifted around to make that a possibility for myself. And now I work with high-end clients around the world, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I was watching one of your shows. For those listening, and you may be looking for a high-end chef, you may just want to check Tessa's Instagram there. I'm sure we will mention it later on, but I just couldn't wait that long. Great show, very easy step-by-step way that she helps other people do what she's is doing. Over to you, Trevor.
I like what you're saying about the different types of food and the colours and that. And it's kind of, I suppose it's partly, a lot of the marketing in the world is to attract us to certain types of food. So it's interesting that it's colour that's kind of, I suppose, what's got you motivated or helped you focus on the right sorts of food. Maybe for people that are listening that are not anti-vegan, because that would be the wrong phrase to use, but people that would be reluctant to, say, embrace becoming a vegan, vegetarian, or even go gluten-free. They just kind of have realised that I need to start a new chapter in my life, or I need more energy, or I need to get a better balance from the physical aspects so that I can run my business, but also enjoy my personal life outside of business, kind of thing. What would be a couple of the things that would maybe, to the untrained ear, sound less radical than the shifts that you took? What would be some of the things you could suggest that they would look at and start to implement or tweak?
Yeah. Number one is take a look at how much sugar you're eating, and include fruit in this, because the body is really digesting it in the same way, in my opinion. I've also learned through nutrition school that there are scientific studies to prove any way of thinking. And so you could easily find an article that says, eat as much sugar as you want to. It doesn't matter. Your body can handle it. In my opinion and my expertise, sugar is the biggest disruptor to the immune system. And the body can handle 17 grams of sugar per day. That equals 6 teaspoons. The average person is eating 50 to 75 grams of sugar per day.
Whoa.
So it's a big difference.
Yeah.
You also can utilize Google. You can type in how many grams of sugar in a banana, and it'll tell you. So you can start to compile, just make a simple list, even for how much sugar in your breakfast are you consuming. If you're having a prepackaged yogurt, probably you're consuming all of your sugar for the day in that one yogurt. But people don't really understand how much they're consuming. And what happens is that it will overfry the adrenals, and the adrenals are what is keeping you running. And so if you overfry them, then you're going to be suffering from fatigue, possibly migraines, or just constant headaches, body soreness, lethargy. There are lots of different ways that your body can be responding to this that could really hurt your business or your work, the ability to work in what you're doing. So cutting down your sugar, that's immediately, you're going to go through withdrawal. It's been proven that sugar is more addictive than cocaine. So be prepared for that. Some tricks that I've learned, if you're going through sugar withdrawal, it does take about a week, and then after the week, you're good. But if you're having a craving during that withdrawal, if you have a spoonful of fat, so that could be peanut butter or almond butter or some kind of nut butter, or it could be coconut milk if you want to add some coconut milk into your coffee, or you could try a bulletproof coffee and put some butter into your coffee. That fat is going to turn off the craving signal. Also, anything that's fermented. So you could try sauerkraut or a kefir, or even some pickles would work. And they're salty, so that's just going to be like an added. You're also retraining your taste buds to go to the other end of the spectrum. So sugar's number one. I did mention coffee, but I would say to cut out caffeine as much as possible. That's also doing a very similar thing that the sugar is doing, and alcohol. And those, sugar, caffeine, and alcohol, are the world's favorite things. So it's really hard to tell somebody to not partake in them. But if you want to pick one out of the three, that's great.
Okay. And I think you kind of alluded to it earlier, in the sense of, to somehow there's a way of listening to your body to tell you which is probably less helpful to keep consuming. How, from somebody that hasn't sort of studied nutrition, how could I discover? How could I listen to my body? What would be maybe a quick hack that could help to listen?
I just learned this the other day, and I'm
it's hot off the
ecstatic about it. So the goal for people is to be in the body. That's what, for the last 20 years, meditation, that whole thing, it's all about coming back into the body. When it comes to food or anything, really, as soon as you catch yourself making an excuse or reasoning, you've left your body and you're now in your mind. And so a quick hack for that is, if it's a full body yes, then it's a yes. If it's a full body no, then it's no. But if there's any middle ground there where you find yourself trying to reason with it, well, maybe if I just do this, or well, that could help me in this, it's a no. Just slide it into the no category, and really wait to feel what is a yes. And so if you're deciding on what to eat, and it is a turkey sandwich with a nice salad, or it could be I'm just going to stop at McDonald's. McDonald's is going to be faster. Maybe you're in a hurry. it might taste better if you're been used to eating McDonald's. But if you really stop and just like listen to what does my body really want, it's going to go with the turkey sandwich with the salad. The mind is going to want McDonald's. And so overcoming that is the hardest thing to do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the mindset more than the body appetites. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. So maybe then if I, after listening to you today, if I then think, right, I'm not going to have as much sugar, I want to cut out sugar. Mm-hmm. First of all, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I think if I'm hearing you saying is, first of all, I have to make the decision that, right, I'm definitely going to do that and put accountability, whatever it is, in place to keep me to that. Then I look to that while I'm walking through the week or so withdrawal from the sugar and embracing kind of something different to have instead. Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. How about
and setting yourself up for success is really important. So let's say you make the decision to cut out sugar. If you wanted to use that calendar method that I was talking about, where you can see the month and you can do a check off of like, I made my goal today of staying within this amount. That's a great accountability. But then also I mentioned fat or fermented things. When you're in your office, have a jar of peanut butter and a spoon there. So when you get that sugar craving, you can just take a spoonful of peanut butter. You're not searching, you're not like trying to battle against yourself. It'll just be there. Maybe you keep it in your car, or you have multiples. You keep one in your bedside table, and then you keep one in your car, and you keep one in your office. So wherever you go, it's foolproof. There's no excuse for you to reach for that other thing.
That's good. I like that. I can hear everybody hearing your voice back to them as they reach the piece of but also, just to clarify, it's an alternative is a spoonful of peanut butter, not half a jar, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes. Thank you for saying that. So for those who want to watch their calorie intake, yes, a spoonful is actually going to be 2 tablespoons. And on the back of any nut butter jar, usually the serving that they list is 2 tablespoons, and it's going to be in the 100 calorie range, somewhere around there. 110. If you want to do 1 tablespoon, do half of a spoonful. And that is going to knock out that craving within a few minutes. So exactly, you don't need the whole or half jar.
That's interesting. So that kind of, in some ways, answers part of what I was going to ask you next, because I'm always kind of intrigued at, particularly when I get the opportunity to talk to nutritionists, what I find an area where I can trip up easily is I'm engrossed in the middle of a task. I get hungry. I don't have the peanut butter nearby. Biscuits are the closest thing. It's a quick fix. Mm-hmm. What would be, as well as the jar of peanut butter or something like that? I kind of, as you notice, I'm leaning towards that more than sauerkraut. But everyone out there that loves sauerkraut, pick sauerkraut.
Well, the sauerkraut you need a refrigerator, and I totally get it. It's a lot easier to go with that.
Yeah, no, that's all. I'm glad you understand. I feel better now. But what would be a couple of other kind of healthy snacks or maybe quick meals? Something that if you spent longer working on a project than you really wanted to, you don't now feel like cooking a meal or spending enough time on that. What would be some good kind of quick things that would give us the energy that we need, that would help us kind of concentrate if we're still finishing off the project before we switch off for the day, that we could kind of have nearby that maybe doesn't need a fridge, if there is such
I love that question. Mm-hmm. And I actually use this a lot because in my car I have a little basket. I learned this from a woman many years ago when I used to work in the floral industry, and it's just a lot of driving around. So she always kept a basket of snacks in her car, and I adopted that. And so I tell my clients this same thing: get a little basket, or it could even be a tote or some kind of container. And go-to snacks that I recommend, aside from the nut butter, are a sugar-free jerky. If you eat meat, you can easily find, but just make sure that it is sugar-free and as free of any additives as possible. But there are a lot of options. If you just, in the row of jerky, if you pull one down, take a look at the ingredients, you're sure to find one. If you want different flavors, if you like it spicy, if you like turkey versus beef, whatever you like, grab a few of those, have those on hand. Solid nuts rather than the nut butter, but just nuts in general, nuts or seeds, any of those are good. Try to go with salted. I know that it's popular to do the raw nuts right now, but the salted aspect of it actually turns the nuts into a soluble fiber, and it's going to help detox the body a bit more. And like, if you think, when we used to go to bars, or people used to go to bars, they'd have that bowl of nuts. That doesn't exist anymore, but it's always salted nuts. And that's because it allows the liver to absorb and detoxify what needs to be processed.
I didn't realize that.
Another thing would be popcorn. Popcorn is my favorite snack, and I feel like it often gets overlooked. Try and go with just the plain popcorn. It is very satisfying. You could do like a lightly salted popcorn. That's also fine. There are more brands now. I don't know in the UK if you have the same brands, but we have one called Skinny Pop. They're pretty relatively clean ingredients, and they even have a vegan cheddar option that's made with nutritional yeast. So you could get that cheesy popcorn flavor without all the extra things. So those would be my three go-to: the jerky, nuts or seeds, and popcorn.
Popcorn. That's good. I'm glad you mentioned that. I like popcorn, so yeah, I feel better already.
I don't know. There's that Ellen DeGeneres stand-up where she's talking about how people eat popcorn. It's impossible to eat one piece. You always are like the whole handful, of just getting as much in as possible in one bite.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, you mentioned primary health habits. So we've probably covered some already in that, but are there any other sort of tips that you can share that helps us to kind of maintain or even get to sort of more optimum health rather than feel like we're...
Yes. Yeah. So I really look at wellness in a full lifestyle way. And so that can go beyond just your food and your cooking habits, but including sleep, movement. Those are the kind of the basics. But then if you extend even further, your home environment as a whole, your finances, your education, your interpersonal relationships, spirituality, looking at those other broader areas of your life and seeing, like, is my home really cluttered, or do I like not prioritize cleaning and putting things away and it's always a mess, but everything else is spot on, then that's a really great area to look and start organizing things, start bringing things to a Goodwill that you don't need, minimizing those types of things. If you feel education is lacking, then you could enroll in a course or look up a course on YouTube for free and learn something new. Taking into account all the different aspects of our lives and making sure that we are fueling each one of those. So in that BTG method that we mentioned in the beginning, I identified 4 different areas of my life that I wanted to enhance because at that time I felt that they were lacking. You could interchange any 4 areas that you want to and go at it for a month and see what changes when you really focus on that.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. There's lots of useful tips there. Our time together is kind of almost near an end, but first of all, where can people kind of find you? What's the best way that they can sort of look at what you're doing and follow you?
Yeah, my business is called Completely Golden, and my website is completelygolden.com. You can search that. I have different blog posts, recipes. I have the links to my cooking show episodes on there. I also have a way to sign up for my newsletter. Outside of my website, I'm on Instagram. I have 2 accounts, Completely Golden and I Am Completely Golden. I Am Completely Golden is more lifestyle. Completely Golden is all about food. So you can check those out.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So although you kind of have a passion for food, and you've studied nutrition, you are kind of a wellness chef. You also do focus quite a bit on the other aspects to try and balance the sphere of life, if you like.
Yes.
Otherwise, you can be super healthy but broke, or super healthy living in a cluttered, dirty environment, or whatever. And yeah, it really is a mixture of several different things, and they change from time to time, don't they? The balance, I think, we never get it perfect, but certain things need more focus and time. At one point, and then we can focus on something else. But yeah, I think the key is little and often reviewing everything.
Absolutely. It's like a car. You're going to want to rotate or get new tires every few years. You're going to need to get an oil change. You want to refill wiper fluid. You got to do gas. There are all those different components that make sure that your car works, and our life is very similar.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Is there anything that I haven't asked you yet that maybe you think, I'd really like to be able to share this with the guys that are listening, and the ladies that we haven't covered?
The only thing that's coming to my mind is to try and infuse as much play into your life as possible. And I mean that it could be a game, or a game of solitaire, even if you wanted to, or it could just be looking at something a little bit different. I can give a quick example of, I had gotten into kind of a spat with a previous head chef when I was still working in restaurant kitchens, which I don't anymore. And it was just an ego battle. And I brought it home with me, and I was so aggravated. I know a lot of people can identify with that feeling. And I decided to just put a funny green hat on the chef in my memory. And as I was going through that altercation that we had, where I was really angry, but now they were wearing this silly green hat on their head. And it totally released, I couldn't do anything but laugh, because I had turned them into more of a cartoon character, and it felt silly to be arguing with a cartoon character. So just playing with reality, playing in your life will really open up other possibilities.
That's good advice. Yeah, it reminds me, there's a good phrase I heard of a guy say a good few years back now: find something that delights your soul and give it more. And I think, we can be in some ways too focused on building the business and the lifestyle that we want, but we can miss the happy moments, or interject enough fun in the process to make the journey better. And the more kind of we enjoy life, the people around us that we interact with, it's going to rub off on them, isn't it? So yeah, totally agree with that. That's brilliant. Thank you for everything that you've shared with us today. Yeukai, did you have any questions that we haven't covered that you wanted to ask before?
No, loved what I've been learning so far, for taking notes, and I'm sure those listening are taking notes here. Tessa, thank you for being here with us. We truly love what you've shared with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a fun pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been fun to chat, so thank you. And yes, for everybody, I'm sure there's at least 2 or 3 immediate takeaways that you can put into practice. So yeah, make sure you do. Make sure that you invest in yourself and in your health, so that you enjoy life better, so that you're able to build the business that you want to build. We'll talk more on that in future episodes, I'm sure. But thanks for joining us, and for now, we will say goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.